Hello. Today I'd like to talk about medical writing with you. Today I've collected a bunch of words that we see commonly misused in the medical papers that we revise. So I want to go through this list of misused words and talk about the correct way to use them in your medical writing so that you look professional and reviewers and the editor of the journal that you're submitting to understand what you're talking about. The first misused word that I see both in my writing classes and in the papers that we revise are the words abnormal and normal. Now the key point here is do not describe the examination itself as normal or abnormal. Only use abnormal or normal to describe the findings of the examination. So for example, you cannot say the examination was normal. No, you could say the findings from the physical examination were normal. That's fine. Don't use the word acute incorrectly. Now, the problem that we see with the word acute is sometimes people use the word acute to mean severe. But that's not the meaning of the word acute. Acute means short-term, and the opposite of acute is chronic, which means long-term. So here's an example. An acute asthma attack in a chronic asthma patient. This means the attack was short-term or acute, but the patient had asthma for a long time or long-term or chronic. The word biopsy is another problem word. Remember, biopsy always refers only to the process of collecting a specimen, not to the specimen or the sample itself. So if you want to talk about the tissue that you removed, talk about the biopsy specimen or specimen, but the word biopsy itself refers to the process in which we remove that specimen. Disc with a C and disc with a K. Which one is correct? Well, the AMA style is pretty clear on this, and they say that when you're talking about the eye or anything with ophthalmology, spell disc with a C. But when you're talking about the back, the spine, lumbar disc, it will be with a K. Doctor and physician. The word doctor can refer to anyone with a PhD, anyone with a doctorate degree, but the word physician should only be used for the MD or the medical doctor degree. Should healthcare be 2 words or 1 word? Well, in formal or in scholarly writing, healthcare should always be written as 2 words, even though in your dictionary they will allow different spellings. The AMA says that when we write formally, it should be 2 words, health care. Let me talk about since and because for a moment, because this is a tricky one. In conversation, since and because mean the same thing, but when we write academically, especially in medicine, the word since should not be used to mean because. The reason for that is that since can confuse the reader, because since has a double meaning. Since can mean time or cause. So, to be safe, when you are talking about cause, just say because, and when you're talking about time, say since. So, for example, you can see the problem in my sentence. He had wanted to be a biologist since he was 6 years old. You don't know if it's because he's 6 years old or since the time when he was 6 years old. So if you mean time, since is okay, but if you mean because he's 6 years old, better to just use the word because. Let me give you another example. The study could not be performed since the equipment malfunctioned. Now, you don't know if it's because the equipment malfunctioned or since the time when the equipment malfunctioned. Thus, it's not a good use of the word since. If you mean since, time, say since, but if you mean cause, say because. Here's another problem. Incidence and prevalence. We see them confused and used incorrectly in sentences that we revise. The key point is incidence always refers only to new cases, maybe from this year. Prevalence means the total cases or the existing cases in the population. Let me give you an example of this error and talk about how to correct it. The sentence says, the prevalence rate for asthma increased from 38 cases per 100,000 in 1990 to 40 cases per 100,000 in 1991. Now the problem is we are talking about new cases here in each year. Prevalence means total cases. So correct term should be the incidence rate, not prevalence, incidence. We're talking about new cases, not the total cases. Here's another example. The incidence of HIV infection in young adults aged 21 to 24 years old was 0.1 in the United States in 2004. Now this is not talking about new cases, but total cases. So we don't want to say incidence, we want to say prevalence. The prevalence of HIV infection in all adults, total population, was 0.1. Less and fewer. This is a basic one, but we often miss it. Always use less for the singular, non-countable nouns like water or mass, and use fewer for the plural and countable nouns. Let me give an example. The patient reported drinking fewer water this week. Is that right? No, we can't count water, so we would say less water. But if you want to count the glasses, you can. We can't say less glasses of water, no, fewer glasses of water. One more that I want to mention is administer and administrate. The key point is that administrate always means managing or controlling, but administer means dispensing or providing, like a drug, for example. The reason that this becomes a problem is that the noun for both administrate and administer is the same noun, which is administration. So I think that's why we have this confusion in papers. Let me give you an example of this error and how we can correct it. Standard heparin was administrated daily. No, it was administered daily. This drug was administrated intravenously. No, it was administered intravenously. Gastric ulcers were induced in rats by administrating. No, by administering acid. This was self-administrated. No, it was self-administered. Well, thanks for joining us. If you'd like more information, please visit our blog. We have a lot of information about writing for Taiwanese authors, especially in medicine. It's editing.tw/blog. Also, we can help you to edit or translate your paper, and you can visit our site at editing.tw. Thanks for joining us.